got to have a look at Afterpay. Hard to miss this one this morning. Clearly the talk of the town and the markets. Jack Dorsey's Square is planning to acquire the Aussie buy now, pay later leader in an all-stock deal worth $29 billion US. Square is expected to finalise a transaction by the first quarter of fiscal 2022. The US fintech will then establish a secondary listing here on the ASX. The board has unanimously recommended the offer. Existing shareholders will receive 3/8 of a Square stock with no tax implications expected. This all comes as the buy now, pay later firm reports full year revenues of nearly $1 billion. And of course, alongside this news, the question for us all is on the call, does this news re-rate other buy now, pay later players? Gaurav, Sodhi came out of the blue, not a whisper of this around the place, although some groups have been taking strategic stakes in Afterpay over the last couple of months. What do you think of the bid?
Yeah, a big surprise. We know Square. I'm actually the analyst on Tyro, and I've had a good look at Square and some of the international competitors. Been really impressed with the business I've seen, and they do something quite unique. They actually integrate point of sale with merchant and merchant acquirer services. So it's a real point of differentiation, and the ecosystem's powerful. They've already got a really strong Cash App, which has, I think, sort of 50 or 70 million users. So the acquisition of Afterpay's customers is a relatively small addition to their existing platform user base. So I was particularly surprised to see Square as the acquirer here. I would have thought there would have been maybe some industry consolidation before there'd be a big tech out like this. There are a couple of points to make, Kashif. One is that it certainly validates the buy now, pay later industry and shows that this is a legitimate, long-term and important rival to traditional payment channels. And it probably, I was very surprised by the swiftness of the acceptance as well. It almost seemed like here, take my money, I'm out the door. There was no opportunity for a counter. There was very little competition. And it's trading at a significant discount to Afterpay's all-time high, which is unusual in the takeover of such a hot business. I think it does say something about competition in the sector, and it gives us some indications about what the future might look like for buy now, pay later. And then that is that it may not, the service will be around, it's going to be important, but it may not exist as a standalone business. It may be integrated into broader payment offerings. And Square may have certainly set the benchmark here, and there's probably going to be more to come. You asked about whether it re-rates the rest of the sector. I think it does. And I think we haven't been involved in this sector at all, haven't owned any of it, done very little research, in fact, into much of it. But I know Mathan likes Zip, and that's probably going to be the big beneficiary today.
Okay, so would you be getting into Afterpay now to get the conversion into, or if you're an Afterpay shareholder, do you accept the takeover offer and just let it go?
Look, I'm not in a great position to comment. I've just got such a bad track record on Afterpay, so don't listen to me. But I'd be inclined to accept.
Yeah,
I do like Square, and I think they're offering something different and solving a real legitimate problem, solving it better than their peers. The growth is sensational. The stock looks crazy expensive, but so does anything in this sector. So if you're happy to hold Afterpay, you should be happy to hold Square.
Yep. Mathan?
Look, I got to agree with most of the things Gaurav said. I mean, we talked about this before, and the last time we were with you, I think we talked about what we would look at. I think we were talking about Zip, and below $7, I thought Zip was an interesting play because I actually prefer Zip. I think it's a better model, and also the quality control is a lot better. Look, we looked at these stocks a long time ago. They ran, multiples got crazy high. We couldn't justify it. We got out a while ago. It went even higher, and then it fell below, and then it's come back, and it's been basically trading sideways. So if you think about where we were in December, most of the buy now, pay later, including Square actually, if you look at it in the US, has been really gone sideways since December. So, when the market in the US has gone quite a bit. So in that context, it's interesting that the play has happened this way. Yeah, it's a real surprise that this has played out. And as Gaurav said, it's even bigger surprise that management, after talking about all the growth story, actually accepted the deal. It's at $120, $130 Aussie on a comparable basis. And you have to remember, it got to 160 in February. So in context, it tells you where the sector is. I think Gaurav's right. I think the consolidation play is in. The valuation support. I mean, obviously, we all had issues about the regulatory side of things. Now they're all too big to fail. The government let it run too long. I don't think they can rein them in anymore. So in that context, you have to think that that's gone. I think still the consolidation play in the sector will play out. The other bonus, if you look at Zip, look, at the end of the day, Afterpay shareholders are going to say, well, where's the next big play? And it probably will look at Zip. And the other thing is there's nearly 12% short in Zip. So I don't think that's going to get covered anytime soon. So there's going to be a fair amount of support for the Zip share price. I think over the next 3 to 6 months, Zip goes back up to probably around $9, $10.
Right, okay. Are the founders of Afterpay sort of a bit like the lowies, say, right, let's get out of shopping centres and everyone should have followed suit? Are the founders of Afterpay now saying, hey, we're going to take our money and run because we think this is the peak of the market, we can see competition and we're seeing the early signs of it, and this is going to be as good as it gets?
It certainly has that feel. Sorry, Mathan, you go ahead. All right. Look, it certainly has that feel about it, doesn't it? And it's interesting to note, I mean, you bring up Westfield, the transaction on Afterpay is actually larger than the Westfield transaction a couple of years ago. And Westfield took sort of 50 years to build up. Afterpay is, what, a 6-year-old business? It really shows you the way e-commerce and the digital economy has really just run over the physical economy. And I think you're right. I think the tone set by the managers, who seem very keen to take the deal and run, in the face of the most competitive entry set that we've seen in the history of buy now, pay later, I think investors should take heed of that and think about that a little bit before piling into the next buy now, pay later. As I said, I think the future here is an integrated offering where buy now, pay later is part of a broader service offering, and that's where the competition is going to be hotter. So I completely understand where the founders are coming from. Note their actions and think about it before you make your own action.
Mathan, you too?
Yeah, look, I agree. I think Zip's come back. I mean, if you think about Zip, it halved from the peak in February. So that's why I was interested in the stock. So the pullback's been substantial compared to everyone else. And you look at the model and say, that's probably the second biggest one that's doing quite a bit, and it's gone overseas. It's got a proven play in going through that. So I thought Zip was way overdone. So I think there's that play in that. But look, as Gaurav said, we are probably at the peak. We thought it was, we've already seen the peak in February. But the reality is the industry will consolidate and become a few players. And Gaurav's right, it's going to be consolidated with other services. So in that context, I think it's a matter of time before there'll be stories about Zip. And, with Klarna in play in the media a number of times before, I wouldn't bet against a story coming out that Klarna is looking at Zip in the next 2 weeks.